Hello. You know what's worse than getting cheated on? Realizing that your wife isn't even good at hiding it. Seriously, if you're going to betray someone who has dedicated nearly a decade of his life to you, at least put in some effort. But no, Amanda was sloppy, arrogant, and worst of all, she thought I was too dumb to notice. There's something almost poetic about being underestimated. It gives you time to plan, time to make things right. But before we get into that, let me set the stage. My name is Derek. I'm 34 years old, and up until a few months ago, I was just your average married guy. Stable job in finance, suburban home with a mortgage that makes me question my life choices, 2 cars that always seem to need repairs, and a golden retriever named Winston who still thinks every day is Christmas morning. My wife, Amanda, and I had been together since high school, and if you had asked me a year ago, I would have told you we were happy, comfortable, at least, and maybe that was the problem. Amanda is the type of woman who thrives on attention. She loves compliments, grand gestures, and the thrill of being admired. In the beginning, I was the one giving her all of that. But as life settled into its predictable routine, work, bills, the occasional date night at the same Italian restaurant we always went to, I guess she got bored. And boredom, for someone like Amanda, is dangerous. It started small. Her phone was always in her hand, but she tilted the screen away from me. No big deal, right? Privacy and all that. Then came the late-night gym sessions. The girls' nights where she'd come home tipsy, smelling like expensive cologne, giggling at texts she refused to explain. The new lingerie that never made an appearance in our bedroom. At first, I played the fool. She's just busy. Work stress. Maybe she's feeling self-conscious and needs space. You know, the kind of mental gymnastics that would earn an Olympic gold medal in denial. Then, I found the receipt. Dinner for 2 at an upscale steakhouse across town. 2 nights ago. The same night she had told me she was at yoga. And it wasn't just a regular meal. It was one of those $300 bill, candlelit, probably holding hands, across the table kind of dinners. That was the moment the little voice in my head, the one that had been whispering, "Something's not right," turned into a full-on screaming siren. I could have confronted her then and there. I could have yelled, thrown accusations, demanded an explanation. But what would that accomplish? She'd lie. She'd gaslight me. Maybe even turn it around and make me feel guilty for not trusting her. No, I wanted something better. I wanted revenge. Not some petty slasher tires, tell her mom kind of revenge. No, I wanted something strategic, something slow, something perfect. And that's when the idea hit me. If she wanted to sneak around, if she wanted the thrill of deception, I was going to give it to her. But this time, I'd be the one pulling the strings. So, I started planning. You ever get that feeling in your gut, the one that tells you something's wrong, but your brain fights to ignore it? That was me for weeks. I'd catch glimpses of Amanda staring at her phone with that little smirk. The same smirk she used to give me when we were first dating, back when I was the one making her feel like the center of the universe. Now, she barely looked at me unless it was to ask if I had paid the electric bill. I let it slide. At least, that's what I let her think. See, the old me, the trusting, naive, good husband version of me, would have confronted her. He would have sat her down and asked, "Are you happy? Is there something wrong? Can we fix this?" But that version of me died the moment I found that receipt. The new me? He had other plans. First, I needed to confirm what I already knew. I wasn't about to make a fool of myself over a hunch. So, I started paying attention, not just in a "I'm suspicious of my wife" way, but in a Sherlock Holmes meets FBI surveillance way. I noticed that she would always take her phone to the bathroom, even for a 2-minute trip. Before, she used to leave it charging on the kitchen counter. Now, it was practically glued to her hand. I started checking the mileage on her car. She claimed she was grabbing groceries or meeting Sarah for coffee, but somehow, she'd racked up an extra 30 miles on a weekday. Then, the ultimate cliché. She started dressing differently. Amanda always cared about her looks, but lately, she'd gone from casual cute to Instagram model at a Miami nightclub. New wardrobe, new perfume, makeup done even when she was supposedly just running errands. I hadn't seen her wear red lipstick in years, and now she was suddenly rocking it on random Tuesday afternoons? Yeah, I wasn't a fool. I just needed proof. So, I did what any self-respecting man in my position would do. I snooped. I'm not proud of it. Actually, scratch that. I am. Because if she was going to lie to my face, I had every right to pull back the curtain. One night, while she was in the shower, I picked up her phone. Locked, of course. But Amanda had a habit of checking her notifications before bed, and I had been watching. So, when she left the bathroom wrapped in a towel and unlocked her screen, I made sure to memorize that passcode. 3 days later, when she was asleep, I used it. And that's when I found him. His name was Jason. At first, I didn't want to believe it. But there it was, hidden messages under the name Sarah G. Real creative, Amanda. I scrolled through weeks of texts, heart emojis, inside jokes, the kind of messages she used to send me. The worst part? She wasn't even careful. She talked about their weekend plans, about how she couldn't wait to see him again, how she missed his hands on her. I won't lie to you. It felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I sat there in the dark, reading message after message, feeling my heart rate spike with every new detail. I could have broken something. I could have woken her up and thrown the phone in her face. But I didn't. Because an idea was forming. A plan. If Amanda wanted to play dirty, then fine. I was about to become the best damn actor she'd ever met. I put the phone back exactly how I found it and went asleep next to her like nothing had changed. But from that moment on, everything had changed. I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to make her feel it. And by the time I was done, she'd regret ever thinking I was too stupid to notice. Waking up next to Amanda the morning after I found the messages was surreal. She rolled over, mumbled a half-asleep, "Morning, babe," and nestled into my chest like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't been telling another man how much she missed his touch just hours before. I almost laughed. The sheer audacity. But there was no anger. Not anymore. Anger is a reaction. I wasn't reacting. I was planning. Over the years, I had built a reputation as a predictable, dependable man. I didn't start unnecessary drama. I paid the bills on time. I listened when she vented about her coworkers. I was boring, safe, the kind of guy who never raised his voice, never stirred the pot. And that was my greatest advantage. Amanda had no reason to suspect I knew. She thought she was in control, and that made this so much more fun. I didn't want to just catch her. I wanted her to spiral, to lose her mind trying to figure out what was happening. And the best way to do that? Make her think I was cheating, too. Of course, a normal person in my position would do something simple. Download a dating app, stage some fake text messages, maybe even get a friend to help. But that wasn't enough. I wanted Amanda to drown in the same paranoia and self-doubt she had unknowingly gifted me. So I got creative. First, I changed my behavior just slightly, just enough to make her wonder. I started staying out late, saying I had work dinners or last-minute meetings. When she asked about them, I kept my answers intentionally vague, casual, unbothered. Then, I started acting happy. That's what really threw her off. Because Amanda, in all her arrogance, had probably expected me to notice something was off. Maybe she had even hoped for it. Some dramatic confrontation, a fight where she could turn the tables and blame me for being neglectful. But instead of acting distant or moody, I became lighter, relaxed. I hummed while making coffee. I sent texts and smiled at my phone. I left the room to take calls and came back looking suspiciously amused. She noticed. I could see it in the way she started watching me when she thought I wasn't looking, in the way she hesitated before asking me how my day had been, as if she wasn't sure she actually wanted the answer. The first few days, she brushed it off. But then, I gave her the first real clue. Perfume. A few sprays of an unfamiliar, floral scent on my shirt before heading home. When she hugged me, I felt her stiffen, just for a second. She pulled away too quickly, laughed a little too hard when she asked, "New cologne?" I shrugged. "Oh yeah. Borrowed some from a coworker. Left mine at home." Silence. That was when I knew I had her. But that was just step one. Step two was the text message trick. I changed a contact in my phone to a generic female name, something neutral, like Sophia W., and left my phone just barely unlocked on the counter, just enough that she'd see the notification pop up. Sophia W. Had a great time last night. Can't wait to do it again soon. I left the room to grab something from the car and waited. Counted the minutes. When I came back, the phone was exactly where I left it, unmoved. But Amanda? She was acting different. I asked her how her day had been. She said fine. I asked if she wanted to go out for dinner. She hesitated. She was thinking about it now, wondering. And that's when I knew the real game had begun. Because Amanda wasn't a normal person. She wouldn't just come out and ask me about Sophia. That would mean admitting she had checked my phone, that she was insecure, that she was just as capable of suspicion as I was. And for someone who had been so sure she was the only one keeping secrets, that realization must have felt like the ground crumbling beneath her feet. I kept up the act over the next few days, planting little inconsistencies. Late nights, half-finished stories, a new gym routine I had zero interest in actually following. The little things that slowly drive a person insane. And Amanda? She was cracking. She wasn't sleeping as well. She was glued to her phone more than usual, probably checking to see if Jason was available for reassurance. She started asking more questions, casual at first, but layered with just enough forced calmness that I could tell she was panicking. But I still wasn't done. I wanted more. So I set the final trap. One night, as we sat in bed, I pulled out my phone and typed something. Amanda wasn't watching, but she felt me do it. The way someone feels an incoming storm before the first thunderclap. Then I, accidentally, left the phone unlocked, screen facing up, just long enough for her to see the draft of a message. Sophia W. Wish I could see you tonight, but you know how it is. Soon. I noticed the phone after a few minutes, let out a small tisk sound, and turned it face down, like I was annoyed with myself for being careless. And then I waited. Amanda didn't ask. She didn't confront me. But that night, she didn't sleep at all. And that's when I knew. I had her right where I wanted her. The beauty of a slow-burn revenge plan is watching the cracks form before the dam finally bursts. Amanda had been confident, cocky, even. She thought she was playing a game I wasn't aware of, that she was in control, that she could manipulate every conversation, every glance, every excuse. But now, the shift was undeniable. She had been acting, pretending to be the perfect wife while sneaking around behind my back. And now? Now she thought I was sneaking around behind hers. It started with small things. Her phone, once always in her hand, now sat ignored next to her on the couch, screen dark. She wasn't texting Jason as much, wasn't sneaking off to the bathroom to reply. She'd turn it face down every time she put it down, but she wasn't checking it with that same nervous anticipation. Instead, she was checking me. I caught her watching me more than once. Those side glances when she thought I wasn't looking, the subtle shift in her tone when she asked, "How was work?" Like she was testing me, fishing for inconsistencies, looking for something she wasn't sure existed but couldn't ignore. She started going to bed later than usual, waiting for me to put my phone away first. If I stayed up watching TV, she'd stay up too, pretending to be invested in some show while her eyes darted toward me every time my phone buzzed. When I got up to leave the room, she'd casually glance over, hoping to catch a glimpse of whatever message had just come in. But, of course, she never did. Because there were no messages. There was no Sophia W. No late-night meetups. No scandalous affair. There was only her own guilt reflecting back at her, warping into suspicion, twisting her thoughts until she could barely focus on anything else. And that's when I knew it was time for the next phase. I started getting dressed better. Not overly dramatic, just enough to make it noticeable. New cologne, a sharper haircut, shirts that fit just a little better than before. When she asked why, I shrugged. I don't know, just felt like switching things up. That answer would have been fine under normal circumstances. But in this scenario, it was gasoline on an already burning fire. I started leaving earlier for work and coming home later. No explanations. No calls to let her know. No routine. Just enough unpredictability to keep her spinning. When she'd ask what I had been doing, I'd give the simplest, most infuriating answer possible. Just out. Nothing drives a person crazier than a vague answer when they need specifics. She tried to play it cool, but I could see the storm brewing behind her eyes. She wasn't eating as much, wasn't sleeping well, wasn't sure of anything anymore. And then, she finally broke. It was a Wednesday night when the paranoia swallowed her whole. I had just gotten back from the gym, another recent habit I had picked up, despite never caring much for it before. Amanda was already home, sitting on the couch, pretending to scroll through Netflix, but I could feel the energy in the air. She wasn't relaxed. She was waiting. I let the silence stretch between us, let the weight of her thoughts press down on her until she couldn't hold it in anymore. And then, finally, she asked, voice too casual, "Hey, who's Sophia?" There it was. The question she had been choking on for days. I didn't react right away. That would have been too easy. Instead, I let my expression shift just slightly, just enough to be unreadable. I looked at her for a second too long, as if debating how to answer. And then I shrugged. Why? Amanda's eyes flickered, scanning my face for any sign of a lie, any indication that I had just been caught in something. But the truth was, there was nothing to catch. That was the genius of it. No reason, she said quickly, too quickly. I nodded slowly, acting like I had already moved on, but she hadn't. She was still stuck there, spiraling, trying to decode what had just happened, whether I had just confirmed something or denied it. And that's when I saw it. The fear. Not fear of losing me, no, that wasn't what this was. It was fear of being played. Because for the first time in our entire marriage, Amanda wasn't the one with the upper hand. She wasn't the one in control, and that scared her more than anything else. That night, she barely slept. I could hear her tossing and turning, her breathing uneven, restless. And when she thought I had fallen asleep, I heard her unlock her phone and start scrolling. I didn't have to see the screen to know what she was looking for. She was checking everything. My social media, my messages, anything that might give her an answer. But she'd find nothing, because there was nothing to find. And that was the part that would drive her insane. Amanda had walked into this thinking she was playing me, that I was the fool in this story, the clueless husband who would never see the signs. And yet here she was, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if she was the fool. And I wasn't even done yet, because the final act was still to come. And when it did, she was going to wish she had never underestimated me. You ever watch a house of cards collapse in slow motion? The way it sways, teeters, fights against gravity for just a moment before finally giving in? That's what Amanda had become. A carefully built illusion of confidence, now crumbling under the weight of her own paranoia. And I was the wind. It was beautiful to watch. Every little seed I had planted, every late night, every mysterious text notification, every vague response, had bloomed into full-blown hysteria. Amanda wasn't just suspicious anymore. She was obsessed. She had crossed over from mild curiosity to full-on losing her mind. I started finding her in places she had no reason to be. Like the gym. Amanda never cared about fitness, but suddenly she was getting into it, just as I was. I'd walk in, and there she'd be, pretending to scroll through her phone, watching me from the corner of her eye, waiting to see if some mysterious woman would show up. Then there was the office visit. A completely random, "Hey, I was just in the area. Thought I'd bring you coffee, pop in." But her eyes weren't on me. They were scanning the desks, the break room, the women who walked past, looking for some clue, some confirmation that I was hiding something. She started texting me more often. Innocent at first, "How's your day going?" But when I'd answer with a casual "good, busy," she'd push further. "Who are you with? Have any meetings? Grabbing lunch with anyone?" The Amanda I knew never used to care about details like that. She was unraveling. So I decided it was time for the final push. I needed a grand finale. A moment so devastating, so irreversible, that it would destroy any illusion Amanda had that she could control the narrative. And I had just the thing. One of Amanda's favorite things in the world was date night. Not because she particularly enjoyed spending time with me, but because she loved the idea of a romantic evening that she could post about online. Fancy restaurant, well-plated food, a dimly lit selfie, something that screamed, "Look how happy and loved I am." So I set one up. A nice steakhouse, candlelight, the kind of place where women in dresses and men in sport coats sit across from each other, pretending they still like each other. I made the reservation. I told her we were going, and then I didn't show up. I turned my phone off, ignored her calls, and let her sit there, watching as other happy couples clinked glasses while she was left alone, picking apart the empty bread basket with shaking hands. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were 17 missed calls. A mix of "where are you? Are you okay?" and eventually the one that made me smile. "What the hell is going on, Derek?" I texted back one word, "busy." Then I turned it off again. She was waiting when I got home, eyes red, hands clenched into fists, standing in the living room like she was about to pounce. "Where were you?" I dropped my keys on the counter, shrugged. "Out." She was shaking now. Her breathing was uneven, her voice frantic. "With who?" I smirked. "Why do you care?" And that was it. The moment she broke. Amanda had spent months deceiving me, sneaking behind my back, telling herself that I was clueless, that I didn't see the signs. And yet here she was, standing in our home, terrified that she was being played. It was intoxicating. I watched as she cycled through emotions, anger, fear, desperation, trying to decide whether to accuse me or pretend like she was above it. "Are you cheating on me?" she finally asked, voice trembling. I could have laughed. The irony of it. Instead, I just tilted my head and let the silence stretch. I could see her begging for a denial, for some reassurance that this was all in her head, that she hadn't lost control, but I didn't give it to her. Instead, I picked up my jacket, grabbed my keys, and said the 5 words that shattered her into a million pieces. "Don't wait up for me." Then I walked out the door. I didn't actually go anywhere that night. I didn't need to. The moment I closed that door behind me, Amanda's imagination would do all the work for me. She didn't need proof. She didn't need photos or messages or some mysterious lipstick stain on my shirt. She needed doubt. And doubt is like an infection. It starts small, but once it takes root, it spreads, rotting everything from the inside out. I sat in my car, parked just a block away, watching the house through my rearview mirror. Lights flicked on and off. The curtains shifted. Her silhouette paced in and out of view. I imagined the storm brewing in her mind. Where did I go? Who was I with? Was it Sophia? Had I been cheating this whole time? She had spent months feeling untouchable, certain that she was the mastermind, that I was the idiot. Now, for the first time, she was the one left in the dark. I gave her a full hour, just enough time for her mind to twist itself into knots. Then, I casually strolled back through the front door like I hadn't just detonated a bomb in her brain. She was waiting, of course, disheveled, tense, a mess. She had been crying. I could see the smudged mascara, the way her hands clenched into tight little fists like she was holding herself together by sheer force of will. I walked past her without saying a word. She couldn't handle that. She needed me to react, needed me to care. So she broke the silence first. "Where were you?" Her voice was small. I could tell she had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in the last hour. But she hadn't rehearsed my response. "I don't think that's any of your business, Amanda." And there it was. That final moment. The one where the game shifts from suspecting to knowing. She inhaled sharply, like I had slapped her. Her lips parted, searching for something, some angle to regain control. But there was nothing left for her to grasp. I had already won. "You're cheating on me, aren't you?" I let the silence stretch. She was waiting for me to deny it, to fight back, to flip the script and accuse her. That's what she would have done if the roles were reversed. That's what she expected. Instead, I just chuckled. Not loudly, not mockingly, just a quiet, knowing laugh. Then I turned to her, stared straight into her bloodshot eyes, and said, "Now you know how it feels." The world around us stopped. I saw it hit her like a freight train. The weight of every lie she had told, every excuse, every secret text, every stolen kiss with Jason. The truth wasn't that I had cheated. The truth was that she had been played. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, stunned, her brain desperately trying to stitch together a response, some defense, some way to twist this into something salvageable. But there was nothing left to salvage. So she did the only thing she could do. She begged, "Derek, please." I held up a hand, stopped her mid-sentence. "No, don't do that. Don't pretend this is something we can fix. You made your choice. You thought I was too stupid to see it. too blind to notice. But I knew Amanda. I've known for a long time. Her face crumpled. A broken thing. It didn't mean anything. I laughed again, shaking my head. That's the worst part, isn't it? That you actually think that makes it better. I walked over to the counter, grabbed a folder I had prepared weeks ago, and placed it on the table between us. She stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. "What is this?" she whispered. "Divorce papers," I said simply. She sucked in a sharp breath. You don't have to do this. We can fix this, I cut her off. "I don't want to fix this, Amanda. I don't want you." And there it was. The death sentence. The words that took the last bit of fight out of her. I wasn't angry. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't throwing things. I was done. She broke down, right there in the middle of our kitchen. But I didn't comfort her, didn't reach out, didn't care. I just walked past her, up the stairs, and grabbed the overnight bag I had already packed. I had booked a hotel for the next few weeks, long enough to finalize everything, short enough to make sure I wasn't around to watch her unravel any further. As I reached the door, I turned back one last time. "By the way," I said casually, "there is no Sophia." Her tear-streaked face twisted in confusion. "What?" I smirked. "I never cheated, Amanda, but you believed I did. And that means, deep down, you know exactly what that kind of betrayal feels like." She blinked rapidly, realization dawning. I saw the horror in her expression as the full weight of my words settled in. And then I walked out, closing the door behind me. Game over. Bye-bye.